Hello and welcome, I'm Rex Basterfield and this is a video about my Quilcom SIM WINDHARP. The SIM WINDHARP is essentially a sound effect generator and it's used as an effect plugin, even though it generates the sound itself. I've also provided a standalone executable so that you can have this playing on your desktop if you think it might make a nice background sound or help you to sleep or meditate or whatever. A wind harp, or as it's more commonly known, an Aeolian harp, is played by the wind and it exploits a phenomenon called vortex shedding, which causes a string under tension to vibrate according to wind speed, direction, thickness of the wire, string, etc. The Aeolian harp, which is named after the Greek god or bringer of wind, Aeolus, it dates back thousands of years, and if you want to have a look at more information, have a look in the background info folder. So, to sum up, this is an instrument not played by you, but played by Mother Nature, the wind. Aeolian harps come in many shapes and sizes, and the slideshow at the beginning showed you some variations on the theme. The SIM WINDHARP aims to be able to simulate all sorts of different types of wind harp, and there are several parameters that you can play with to quite radically alter the sound. So, as a quick overview, this little panel here determines the wind, and you've got random wind generation from Aeolus himself, or you've got a manual option where you provide the wind. Then we have the string panel, where you can alter the material of the strings, the transition from one harmonic to another, or have it real or unreal. This big panel here allows you to tune each of the 12 strings as you wish, and I'll go into all of this in more detail. And the mixer is where you can mix the harp sound, the wind sound, and the trees rustling, and any sidechain input you may have. So it seems logical to start talking about the wind generator. You can turn the wind on and off with this button here, and it will fade in and out. So let's turn it on and off. So we turn it on and we'll switch this to manual. So we just have the sound of the wind that So that's the setting of the wind that you make yourself, and you have a storm control which makes it sound more stormy. So now on to Aeolus. So we'll turn the wind on and we'll switch over to Aeolus, and this is a random wind sound and wind pressure generator. Let's turn the wind up a bit there, the sound of the trees. They've got the same storm control. We can determine the amount of random gusts of wind that we'll get. Now this hold control here determines how the wind behaves in terms of variation. So on hold, it will hold at a particular wind speed for a while before changing to another wind speed. So if I turn that off, you'll hear glissandos, I hope. back onto hold. So we'll get more sustained sounds on hold. Now you might have noticed that the volume of the wind doesn't always make the instrument louder, which is a simulation of what really happens, because the direction of the wind at any time is important, and also what's called the laminar flow. So basically speaking, the maximum wind speed will have an effect on the sound of the harp, but it's not 100% related to the loudness of the wind at any given time. So now we'll move on to the strings panel. So I'll turn wind on. We'll leave it on Aeolus, our good friend. I'll turn this down so we can hear the harp better. The material knob, when it's fully anti-clockwise, simulates catgut or nylon strings, and fully clockwise, metal strings. And of course you can set that anywhere in between. The slew setting, as I mentioned before, is really setting of the transition time between harmonics, because we only ever hear harmonics. We don't hear the fundamental, just harmonic multiples. So if I go silly and go really short, now shorter, tighter strings will have a faster slew time, and longer, slacker strings will have a longer slew time. Real and unreal. Real is a realistic, well, I hope a realistic simulation of the behaviour of an Aeolian harp, where the transition between harmonics has an exponential relationship. If we go to unreal, it switches over to a linear relationship, which, whilst unreal, I think is also quite interesting sound. And you hear more harmonics at the same time. Real always sounds quieter because the transition between harmonics is quieter, which is what happens in a real one. So now we go down onto the tuning panel, which, as I said before, can tune the pitch of each individual string. So let's turn the wind on. On this particular preset, the pitches are set to a major scale. So with chromatic on, we go up in whole semitone intervals. And if we want to set something accurately, we can hold the shift key down, which is especially useful in continuous mode, where we get continuous range of sounds, pitches I should say. We can set all of them at the same time. And we can randomize them. And if we have a scale that we like, minor for instance, we can supply an offset in pitch numbers, so we can retune that scale over a very wide range. And finally we have this Windbend knob. Now what happens on a long string, even though you don't hear the fundamental, when it's bent by the wind at higher wind speeds, the pitch will increase. So if I turn this up to maximum, you hear the wind will cause the pitch to bend up. So that is the tuning panel. The mixer allows us to set the level of harp, wind and tree rustling, and we have a stereo width control for each of these sound sources. We can also mix in the side chain, and if it's in stereo we can adjust the width of the side chain input. There's more information of that in the user guide. So let's turn the wind on. Here we've got a lot of wind, no trees. Let's bring some trees in. Turn the harp up. Alter the width. So that's the mixer. So that's the Quilcom SIM WINDHARP for you, and it probably won't be of much use to you as a music producer unless you want that particular sound effect. I hope you read the user guide and have a look in the background info. There's a lot more information there, and maybe you'll have a bit of fun with this, messing around with it and so on. And until the next time, bye.